Hi CP.
Hi Mummy Bear.
We have another Chit-Chat.
We do. This is episode 39.
That's right, and it is Martin Dohrn. Martin was on our screens not that long ago on Gardener's World 2025, episode 11.
Yeah.
And he is the wildlife cameraman who made a fantastic film called My Garden of 1,000 Bees.
Yes.
Which was all about bees in his garden.
Of course, and loads of wild ones, and it was just gorgeous with them nesting and kind of going through their life.
Yeah.
Understanding what they're doing, day-to-day routine.
We should actually say, for full disclosure, we were lucky enough to get a viewing of this film.
Yes!
Oh, it was amazing. And
I cried. You cried. We both cried.
We actually cried. We laughed and we cried. You get very attached to the bees that he's talking about.
It's incredible.
And filming.
Yeah.
And one in particular, who he's named Nikki, you get very, very attached to her.
Like, really attached to her.
It's the most beautiful film, and you can understand why it won the Golden Panda Award.
Yeah.
Which, as Martin mentions, it's arguably the most prestigious wildlife photography award.
Yeah.
But in this episode of Chit-Chats, we hear a bit more about how that film came about.
Yeah.
And then a bit more of the behind the scenes of how that film was made.
Which is incredible, and it's so intricate. All of the mechanics, the engineering behind it. You look at it, you look at just the stuff for filming, the beauty, and the stuff for filming is just beautiful. It's all just amazing.
It is a wonderful film, and actually we talk quite a bit about the politics behind how it's aired, which countries you can view it in. So if you really do want to see it, either go to the US, France, Netherlands or Norway. Head over to one of those countries to see it. But another thing we need to try and do is get it back in the UK.
We do. So I think it's very important to get it in the UK.
Yeah, oh for sure. So we hear about some of the difficulties of that, and it's very challenging in the wildlife film industry. But we do talk about how important education is for all of us, and if we could have films like that available to young children upwards, we feel that you would get more buy-in from everyone in the UK, because you're not just looking at films of lions in the Serengeti, you're looking at bees that are beneath your feet.
Yeah, and that are actually around you in your own space.
Entirely. So we cover quite a lot on that.
We do.
We also talk about the importance of de-insecticiding your garden.
Very, very important.
And the issue of anti-flea powder.
Oh my gosh, this is a big thing. You've got to really think about it.
Really opened my eyes.
I didn't realise how troublesome it could become.
No, I didn't at all. There's some alarming statistics that Martin tells us.
Creepy ones.
But we also hear about dune slacks.
We do.
The Italian Alps.
Exactly. We also hear about the Gentlemen's Cycling Club, which is now open for women as well, I'd like you to say. And they do cycle, as well as go to the pub and have a good pint.
We hear about wildlife bridges over motorways, why we need to love wasps more.
Even though I've been stung 8 times, still love them.
You get stung all the time. You attract spider bites and wasp stings, don't you?
It is absolutely mad. I feel like I'm going to become half spider woman, half the wasp.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be very, very cool.
And we also find out why, for Martin's dream garden, he feels we need to have some of the indigenous UK animals that are now extinct. So, for example, aurochs, straight-tusked elephants. Did you know they existed in the UK?
I had no idea.
Rhinos, European bisons, lions, hyenas, all indigenous to the UK at one time or other.
That's incredible.
And we also find out what drink Martin chooses that is made from artichokes.
Which I have never, ever heard of before.
Now, something else we do talk about is a film that Martin's been working on most recently.
Yeah.
And it's called The Birds. And a similar insight into birds' private lives.
Exactly.
Much like the bee film.
What they're up to, a bit of kind of Suicide Squad going on.
Some interesting intel on peregrine falcons and how they communicate with other bird flocks.
It's very, very interesting.
And what's even more interesting is that since our recording with Martin, which was, we're currently now mid-July, it was only the other week, it has been announced that Martin's film, The Birds, has been nominated for the Golden Panda Award again. 2025.
Gosh, this is amazing.
Best cinematography, best in-country production, and best independent film. So big congratulations to Martin.
Huge. Whoop, whoop.
The Panda Awards are on the 22nd of October, so watch this space. We will announce the results as soon as we hear them.
Of course.
Now, we had some interesting sound issues with this.
We did.
This probably took the longest to set up. I think we were around 50 minutes, nearly an hour of getting everything set up.
Just to give you a bit of context, whilst we were setting things up, we all had a slight rant about new technology and all the difficulties of it.
We're all Luddites, basically.
Yeah.
But we had had a setup Martin's end, which meant that if we spoke when Martin was speaking, you got horrible feedback. So although we're more quiet than usual with all our usual sort of oh lovelies and oohs and oh wow,
all the usual stuff, very interesting.
It's through no less enthusiasm. It's just we're trying to hold back so we don't. Our feedback doesn't take over the whole recording
completely. You can imagine how hard it was for me to hold back my oohs.
Oh lovely.
Oh lovely.
At one point, Martin refers to the public service broadcasting instead of public broadcasting service. So if you are Googling it, don't go for public service broadcasting. That's some UK-based indie band.
Okay.
But it is public broadcasting service that he's talking about.
Okie dokes.
And we also have the question of what pollinates a red campion. And it turns out it's bees, butterflies and hoverflies.
Yes.
And in terms of other noises, Martin's very enthusiastic when talking about his bees. And so there's quite a bit of desk slapping going on.
Yeah.
So Sweet Pea, the format.
So for the structure of Martin's dream garden, we had garden boundary, shed or greenhouse, 5 ornamentals, 5 edibles, 1 statement tree, pond or pool plus 1 plant, and finally favourite seating area and drink and 1 plant for that area.
As usual, we will be putting links onto our website for any of the recommendations or mentions that Martin makes. So we do, for his section, have less about nurseries, for example, or gardens visited. We have more about production companies and broadcasting companies, and that sort of thing in the film world.
Just as interesting.
And you can find that on our website, which is notjustagarden.co.uk.
Yeah.
And if you want to get in contact with us, if you have any questions for Martin or any feedback on this episode, please do contact us on the contacts page on our website, notjustagarden.co.uk, or through our email address, which is notjustagarden@outlook.com.
Or on Instagram as well.
Or you can get us on Instagram or Facebook. So shall we have a look at this one?
I think we should.
This is episode 39, a good old chit-chat with Martin Dohrn.
Off to the bees.
Welcome, Martin, to Good Old Chit-Chat.
Well, hello. Thanks for having me.
Lovely to see you. We've been working our way through the sound issues for the last 50-odd minutes.
Yep.
And we're going to stick with what we've got now. Fingers crossed, we all stay on the screens.
Exactly.
We saw you on Gardener's World not that long ago. I think it was episode 11 of this year. And you were showing your garden, which I think you're going to tell me you're not keen on gardens, but we'll hear about that in a bit. But yours specifically was full of bees. Yes. And this came about on account of the lockdown and your involvement in wildlife photography.
Yes and no. The bees came about before lockdown and before I'd really noticed them. The bees, we moved into that house, 25 years ago, and I didn't notice any bees then. And it wasn't really until about 15 years ago that I noticed a few bees. And I wasn't sure if it was because I hadn't noticed them before, but I noticed them now anyway. And since that time, absolutely for sure, the number of bees has increased every year. Even this year, there's more bees than last year, which I find surprising. And, when lockdown came, I had already considered whether or not I should try and do some kind of study to find out how many bees there were in the garden. And lockdown sort of created an opportunity to film them, because what I had been doing before lockdown was trying to photograph the bees to a good enough quality that I could use those photos for identification. And so even by the time lockdown began, I knew that there was something like, there were more than 50, possibly as many as 60 species in the garden, in a small, very urban garden, sort of 10 by 30 meters, basically. So, and
you say very urban. Where are you? Where is the garden?
We're in the very centre of Bristol, basically. Right, so our house, there's a couple of others. We've got green gardens, but we're like a little peninsula of green that runs into the sort of real heart of the city. So on one side we've got, if you go one way, there's more residential areas with nice gardens. If you go the other way, you just concrete jungle from then on until
so you're a little bee oasis around at your place.
It's a bee oasis, but again, that's a surprise to me that in such a place there would be such diversity. I mean, of course, there are plants and trees and things, but where are these bees coming from and why are they staying? These are all the sort of questions I had. And, and obviously answering those questions, you have to start looking at plants. You have to start knowing more about plants, about flowers, about which flowers bees like, and which kinds of bees like which particular flower, as opposed to just, the expression bee friendly is a bit of a catch-all because of bees. There's 240 species in Britain, and of course there are, they all love flowers because that's what bees do.
Yep.
But some of them are more friendly to some bees than they are to other bees. So there's and there are bees specially designed for particular kinds of flowers. So to call something bee friendly doesn't really mean a great deal. You really need to understand more about actually the anatomy of a bee's mouth parts and which parts of a flower it can access, and that's fascinating when you can you can actually see the bee actually removing the pollen from the flower and putting the pollen on its actual special pollen carrying organs, because again, bees all have different styles of different methods of carrying pollen.
That's very cool.
We all know the honeybee and the bumblebee have these things they call pollen baskets, which are not really a basket at all. But actually, that's quite unusual among bees. Most bees have either they have very hairy legs or they have very hairy bellies, and it's really spectacular when you see one of these bees loaded up with pollen. They look like, well, it's just a really strange looking thing. So, watching the bee when it's on a flower, just like some species remove the pollen with their mouth. Other species just they just walk around on the flower and their hairs on their body just gather it, because bees, all the hairs on all bees are actually slightly barbed, so they can pick up pollen. If you look at them in extreme close up, you can see they're a bit like feathers actually. And so the pollen just sticks to them. And also, I think on sunny days, there's a certain amount of static electricity, which also helps the pollen stick to.
So wasn't there something about how either one or the other is positively charged?
Bees
the bee is positively charged and the pollen is negatively charged. Is that right?
Yes. I mean, I haven't actually read the paper. I've just heard that
deep.
static electricity might be involved. And it certainly is. I've struggled. It's really hard to see the pollen leave the flower and end up on the bee, if you see what I mean. It's so I've filmed a honeybee in really, really huge close up, and these pollen baskets is on a bramble flower, in fact. And these pollen baskets, what appears to happen with a honeybee is that they squeeze it with their back legs. And then it sort of goes round the other side somehow, because they squeeze it. There's some oil comes out or something. And
but they squeeze their pollen baskets.
They squeeze the pollen between their abdomen and their back legs, and that forces the pollen. It sort of slides around.
Wow.
Into the pollen basket, and I've not really seen that in action. I have looked. I've seen them take it off in the hive. I mean, it's quite well stuck on. Yeah. And it's quite an effort for them to sort of slide it off.
Because you did a documentary, you created a film, didn't you? Garden of 1,000 Bees?
Yes, My Garden of 1,000 Bees. It was on Sky Now TV, but it's off now. They've taken it off. They didn't buy a longer license. So we're actually looking for another place to put it in Britain. It's available all over the world in many other countries, but in Britain it's not available. And so we're hoping to get another place for it. And maybe the BBC will take it. I don't know. But
so currently there's no way for us to watch that.
Not in Britain, no. But I would say watch this space or watch a space, because we are, it is available at this point. If any broadcasters listening and they want to show the film, well, they could contact
BBC.
Me and if it was, it would make sense for the BBC to show the film. Frankly, I mean, interestingly, the BBC were involved in the genesis of the film, and there was a series. Lockdown happened. There was talk of what are people going to do in lockdown? What are people like me going to do in lockdown? Well, the truth is we're all going to get in our gardens and film the things that interest us. In my case, it was bees. There were other people had pine martens and so on.
Right.
So there was the idea of a series, and the BBC was very interested in the series of various camera people or filmmakers making films in their gardens, and so that kind of carried us on quite a way. But then the BBC decided that they weren't going to do that. They were going to do their own version. They weren't going to use independent producers like us. And
that's a shame.
So I was told to stop filming because the BBC weren't interested. And I said, well, you know what? I can't stop. But
Yeah.
I mean, I've started.
Yeah, of course not.
You're on the road already.
Yeah, I don't even care. It's lockdown still, whatever.
What else are you going to do?
Exactly. What else am I going to do? And so I kept doing it. And then, of course, at the end of that season, and there were still lockdowns and things going on, and then the production company, we all had a look at it, and it was apparent that, yes, we had the basis of a film. We had a skeleton, but we didn't have a film. So I had to spend another season doing all kinds of, special bits, more interviews. And the interview, because the film started with no script, it started with no plan. And for me, this is the most exciting way to make a film.
Sounds great.
There's nothing worse than having to follow a script with nature, because nature never follows a script.
Of course not.
What I'm interested in is go to nature and ask nature what it's doing and film that.
Yeah.
So there's no script. There was no story. There was no plan. And it wasn't really until two American organizations basically paid for it, really. One was it's the Howard Hughes Medical Institute has a kind of film production, natural history and science film production wing called Tanglebank Studios. They put some money into it, and also public service broadcasting in the United States put quite a lot of money into it. So between them, they basically funded the film, and the film was a massive success in the United States. And
brilliant.
We won loads of awards everywhere.
You won. I read that you won the Wild Screen Golden Panda Award in 2022 for that film.
That's right. Yes,
it was described as one of the most prestigious awards in natural history filmmaking.
Arguably, it is the most prestigious, but I mean, but yeah, it's a lovely thing, and I think we got 4 awards in total at the festival, which I think is more than any other project ever had. Anyway,
wow!
But also won amazing awards in America. It won the American Association for the Advancement of Science Award for Scientific Journalism, and I'm like,
wow!
I didn't realise we were doing science.
I didn't know it was in that category.
We were just
a bit of fun in my garden.
Oh, exactly. I was just mucking around in the garden. I didn't know that was science.
So you're a scientist.
And
very cool.
I was invited to the American Entomological Society annual shindig. There was quite a lot of scientific interest. In fact, one of my old friends he actually works in Costa Rica. He's an American scientist and ecologist, a guy called Dan Jansen, who I've known over the years, and him and I always joke about, well, he always says to me how irrelevant the subjects of my films are, such as monkeys, turtles, jaguars, because he always says no.
Supportive friend, then.
Very supportive.
He could be said to be a bit curmudgeonly, but it's all in jest, really. He's a very interesting man, and he taught me a great deal about ecology.
Yeah.
By example, as much by his writing. Anyway, the film went out. He wrote to me, and he said in the film, it's the first wildlife film I have ever watched through to the end. He's in his 80s now, and I have to say I took that as quite a compliment from someone as scientifically minded as him. He hates wildlife films, in fact, as he always says to me when I go there.
Right.
And I just thought that was fantastic that that's the first wildlife film he's ever watched through to the end. And he didn't need to write that. I hadn't even been in touch with him for quite a while. So.
But you know how much it means, given that the rest of the time he's saying, listen, Martin, I hate what you do as a career.
Yeah.
Zero interest in it whatsoever. But now this is interesting.
This is good.
Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of kind of what he's
something.
like. So
I'm dying to see this film. I'm really gutted that we can't see it. So you mean we have to fly over to the US, get our visas sorted, deal with all the issues you now have when you step on US soils?
I could send you a link to it, but what I can't do is let the link, I mean, at the moment, because there are discussions going on, and it is a very popular film in every country it's shown. I mean, it was on in Denmark recently, and the Danes rang me up and wanted me to go and do a speaking
that's
tour.
nearer for us to go to.
Yeah, you could go to Denmark. You could actually go to Denmark and watch it now. Don't know what other country. It was on in the Netherlands, but it's not anymore, and it might be on in France.
Oh, even closer. You mentioned you were doing pumas and jaguars or whatever, all these sort of big creatures that you were filming before. You went from that kind of photography to the macro photography of...
that's not really what happened. I started off, my photographic career started off my biological career started off collecting insects, in particular butterflies, and then my photographic career started off when I realized it was because I had no scientific purpose per se in collecting and killing butterflies and putting them in a case. So I took up photography, and that was how the long journey of learning how to take close-up photographs. It's really difficult, actually, and there was no training or anything. I mean, there were books you could read, but there was nobody I knew that did anything like what I was trying to do with the butterflies. And but anyway, and then what happened was, you see, by quite a long, circuitous route, I found myself in Bristol at the BBC on a training bursary. So I was probably 29, or, I'd done art college. I'd had a career as a freelance photographer. And then, anyway, I was in Bristol. And the thing was that I went freelance after this bursary. That was the idea. And I was good at close-up. I'd done a lot of close-up work. I knew my way around small creatures, both biologically and technically. But no one was interested in that. They all wanted cats, So it wasn't long before I found myself in Africa trying to film cheetahs and lions and the like. And that continued, I mean, I'd go, after a while I formed a production company, and then I'd go to a broadcaster and say, okay, so, I've got some films, I'd love to make a film for you. I've got a film about lions. I've got a film about ants. Which one do you want? And, guess which one they chose.
The big stuff.
Lions, big stuff. And I mean, I did make some insecty films, on the way. And so that's why when it came to, before lockdown, when it came to all the bees in my garden, taking the still photographs that were good enough to identify was a challenge. Bees were much harder than butterflies. They were really, really hard because they're so fast moving. And because they never spend more than, like for a bee to spend more than a couple of seconds in one place, that's a special, that's a
busy little bees.
Well, it must feel really relaxed then to do that. And the problem obviously is I'm a great big lump with a great big camera, and I've got to lean in really close. And so I knew that trying to film them would be a nightmare. So I didn't really, I did sort of mention to someone not long before lockdown, someone was saying, well, what should we do? I said, well, we could maybe try a film about wild bees. And they're like, nah, no one's interested in wild bees. But what happened was, as my photographs increased in number and my understanding of the bees in my garden increased, I go to the pub. I have some friends. We call ourselves a cycling club, but basically, we used to be a gentleman's cycling club, but then we had to admit
you weren't gentlemen,
and of course,
but
the point is, it was old people, and I'm one of the younger ones actually. Anyway, down the pub, we used to go.
Do you do any cycling in this?
Oh yeah. We cycle about 8 miles to the pub on a Friday night, and then have
to the pub, nice,
and then cycle back. So it's a 16-mile round trip, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's exaggerating. I think actually it is. It's a 12-mile round trip. Still a fair ride. Big hills. So I'd say to my friends, I think I've got 60 species of bee in my garden. And then I say, really? I didn't know there were that many species of bee. And I said, well, yeah, there's 240 species in Britain, in mainland Britain. And and so to have 60 in my urban garden is quite a surprise. And they were all really, really interested.
Yeah.
And as they kind of drew the stories out of me, I'd start telling them about this bee and that bee and the things I'd seen. And I could see that they were genuinely interested. These bees were at the time unknown to the general public. I mean, very few people understood that there were such things even as wild bees and how distinct they were from honeybees, for example, because honeybees are basically domestic animals. And so, this whole kind of misunderstanding about, bees are in trouble. Yes, wild bees are in trouble, not honeybees. They're domestic animals. They will be fine. Wild bees, on the other hand, are declining in numbers and
very important.
And in species. But exactly, wild bees are extremely important because they do pollinate most of our wildflowers. And I mean, in terms of, across the country, the number of honeybees pollinating, doing all the work versus the number of all of the wild bees together, I really couldn't offer a number, but it would have to be 10 times as many wild bees as honeybees on any day, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the kind of ratio. Well, the ratio in my garden is probably 50 or 60 to 1. So 50 or 60 wild bees compared to 1 honeybee in the midsummer. So
that's brilliant.
So, well, yeah, it is amazing. And yet I do go to people's gardens sometimes where there are no bees. And I don't know,
that's sad.
It is sad. It's very sad.
It is sad. So we've become very bee orientated in our garden with lots of bee hotels. But you went one step further, didn't you, with a massive bee city that you built?
Well, it's not that big. I mean, there's plenty of, the first thing to say is that, bees are in trouble, but and people say, let's plant bee friendly flowers. But really, from what I can see, the biggest issue is somewhere to nest sites is the big shortage. And so I kept making more nests as the bees filled them up. So, and actually demand was never satisfied. There's always,
really,
always more. It just goes on and on.
How quickly between building and nests was it then populated?
I started taking the pictures before I put any nests up. And then I don't know quite why I just drilled some holes in some firewood and put them up somewhere so they stayed dry, and some bees colonized them. But they'd been up for I put them up in the winter, and it wasn't until midsummer that I noticed that some of the holes were full. But then that year, not long after, I saw 2 bees fighting over a hole. So I put in some more, and they were used the next day pretty much. There was a real desperation. Wow. But I mean, the thing is that most bees don't nest in wood. Most bees actually nest in the ground, which is much more complicated to kind of make it right for them. And I still don't fully understand the requirements of some species, but every species has different requirements. Some like sandy soil, some like heavy soil, some like compact soil, some like loose soil, some like banks, some like it flat. I mean, every species has got its own sort of little quirk.
So many possibilities.
But I have to say, I've not noticed any one of them liking AstroTurf.
No. Can't imagine that.
No.
You upset us actually with your segment on garden as well, because you were lying down on your tummy and you were talking about the mining bee, I think it was, that was in the ground, and you said, look, it knows where its home is. She knows where it is because of
dandelion,
this dandelion here and that there. And you said, and as soon as you mow it, she doesn't know where her home is anymore. And we felt bereft, didn't we, Sweet Pea?
Yeah.
Of all the poor bees we were making homeless because of my need to mow the lawn.
It's a big problem with the mining bees. And I mean, my wife gets really annoyed with me because in the mining bee season, which is generally April and May, it's not the whole year.
Okay.
She leaves a chair out or a towel, or she sits on the lawn and I go out and I see there's a bee wandering around, can't find its nest, and it's like every year it happens.
So you move the chair and the towel?
Well, yeah. Well, I say just stay off the lawn, while they're there. What do you mean stay off the lawn?
Like, you cordon it off?
I have done.
Just for 2 months. Get off your lawn.
This year was a particularly good year for the mining bees. So it was obvious that you could see where they were, and there must have been about 100, and it's a very small piece of lawn. It's like, I don't know, it's like 4 by 5 meters, something like that. It's really small. Must have had about 100 bee nests in it. So,
well, I'm sure we're going to hear in your dream garden more about how to set up a non-garden for bees. But I just wanted, before we get onto that, quickly ask you what's happening in your world now that you've finished that film about bees. Have you got another subject that you're filming, studying, or are you back to going off and doing your big cats abroad?
Well, the first thing I'd say is I'm not off doing big cats abroad. I've kind of done that, but I have spent the last 3 years since we finished the bee film. I've been making a film about birds.
Oh, great!
It's called The Birds. And
in my garden?
No, but it's not in a garden. It's on an estuary in Britain, on a big estuary in Britain, and it's about the flocking behaviour and peregrine falcons, and how the flocking behaviour isn't quite as straightforward as you would imagine, in the sense that when a peregrine turns up, they're not just flying away from the peregrine, they are communicating with the peregrine in a very particular way, so the peregrine knows which one of them it is to attack and eat. And so the birds are complicit.
So one commits suicide.
So the birds decide on a sacrificial...
It doesn't commit suicide, but the other birds might help the peregrine find it.
Okay, is that based on survival of the fittest? So is it the weakest member of the flock that they're IDing for the peregrine falcon?
Yes, but so this is a particular issue in that there's 200,000 birds there. Peregrine turns up, there's like maybe 10 birds are not very well. And the thing is that the peregrine could spend all day and tire itself out trying to catch fit, healthy birds, which for the peregrine, in fact, is surprisingly difficult in this context. And yet it doesn't, because it finds the sick and, sick, old, young, inexperienced, not very bright, any bird with anything wrong with it, the peregrine will find that, as opposed to one of the fit birds. And so it's just the way they organize themselves. And this is very important for evolution, because it speeds up evolution. It quickly removes any diseased animals from the flock, thus giving the flock time to develop, more time to develop antibodies or whatever. It takes any old animals out, and there's no particular evolutionary advantage to that. It's because of the so-called grandmother effect, because they're probably not breeding, and therefore it makes no difference. But at least the peregrine's not taking out healthy breeding birds. And but also there are birds that might just have something wrong with them. They might just not be very bright. Well,
but it is survival of the fittest, though, isn't it? That's how the natural world works.
Can understand
it is how the natural world works. But I think that the thing is that, yes, it's survival of the fittest, of course, but it's how that selection process actually works that I think is fascinating, and that I think is important for us to understand, because really the point is that without the predator, the bird population would potentially collapse, even because it wouldn't. It would change dramatically, very rapidly, and so ultimately, the question is, when someone says, "Oh, I'm going to do a bit of rewilding," like, what are you going to rewild? My mischievous question would always be, so what predators are you going to bring in then? And they go, what do you mean predators? I would say, well, you can't have wilderness without predators. It doesn't function. Predators are absolutely part of the fabric, and predators and prey help each other to become what they are.
Yeah.
It is fascinating.
Completely.
Well, I think we should have a look at your dream garden. I keep doing little air quotes for this.
Air quotes.
I'm very, very intrigued to see what we're going to get with this one. But I shall hand you over to head gardener Sweet Pea, and she will take you through it.
All right.
I have a feeling we're going to be going for a very bee-friendly, in quote marks,
or very
garden.
Off-piste, I think.
Very off-piste, but this will be very cool. So what would be the garden boundaries surrounding the green space or garden of your choice?
Well, I have thought about this, and I, obviously, because the kind of space that I'd be interested in is quite large, and it would be, I would ideally be not far from a smallish town. Probably, I'm thinking of like Dorset, mid Dorset sort of countryside, bit of rolling hills. It need to be in an area with a variety of geology, but in particular, some chalk hills would be great. Some chalk nearby, and possibly some kind of damp area, river valley. I don't know in the location. So let's just say, from a practical point of view, let's just say that my garden was 1 hectare, which is about 2.5 acres. Is that too greedy?
Well, you can have as much as you want. You could have the Serengeti if you wanted.
Well, in that case, I would have a bigger chunk. I would have a bigger chunk, but I'd like a bit of hillside, a bit of woodland. Basically, I want some diversity, a bit of woodland, a bit of kind of river valley, bit of swamp.
Do you need the sea nearby or not so much?
Well, yeah. I mean, it would be really cool actually to have the sea not far away and have a bit of dune slack. Because that dune slacks are really good for certain species of bee, but also lots and lots of species of wasps like it. And they're,
as important.
Indeed, when I was making the bird film, the place where the house I was staying was exactly that dune slack. And I was so disappointed not to be able to, I'm just walking out onto the beach to do some filming on the mud or something and passing all kinds of extraordinary action that would have been great fun in the bee film. But anyway, thanks. I'll have a bit of dune slack. I suppose if the worst came to the worst and I wasn't allowed all of that, I would start off with the dune. Okay, all right. I'll just have.
You can have all of it. You can have all of it. And do you want proper boundaries, or do you want your kind of area to kind of just roll into the countryside around it?
Well, I mean, that really depends on the countryside around it. I mean, boundaries are disappointing. Fences are always a bit of a disappointment, aren't they? I mean, they're, and obviously, in terms of keeping plant munching animals away from important plants, fences are useful. But I've always thought, like, if you go to Italy, you go to the Italian Alps, you go up into the mountain villages. What you don't see are fences, and that's very interesting because it makes for a much nicer looking landscape. And so, well, how do they keep their cattle? I mean, they have dogs and they have people. Why can they afford to do that and people can't here? I don't know, except for the fact that I do know that the cheese they make is usually very expensive, and that's what that most of the mountain cattle do. They're for cheese making.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
So what you get is this amazing area. So if you go, I can tell you, there's a town in the Valle d'Aosta called Konya, spelled Cogne, Konya. And if you go up there, it's a very touristy town, but all around it are meadows, hay meadows. And at this time of year, it would be utterly gorgeous. The cows are still in the lowlands. It's still quite cool up there. The cows will be coming up any day now because when they cut the hay, which they need to feed the cows in the winter, in the long snowy winter, that's when the cattle come up and then they graze, or then they take the cattle right up into the high mountains, up to sort of 2,000, 3,000 meters, and the cows are all around up there.
Is this where you'd like your land to be then? Would you like it to be in Konya?
That's a good point.
But that then precludes the sea. I mean, Konya is amazing because, firstly, in Europe, the number of species of bees is far greater than in Britain.
Right.
And I have seen wild bees in Konya that I've not seen in Britain. I haven't had time to identify them. But also, more importantly, there's quite a few species of butterfly that are practically extinct in Britain, which are quite common in Konya.
Wow.
And such as, for example, the high brown fritillary, silverwash fritillary. I mean, silverwash fritillary is rare, but not, these used to be common butterflies. And so, I'm always interested in the total number of insects, not just the bees, all the insects. Where have they all gone? Britain has lost huge numbers of insects, and the culprits are variously described as habitat fragmentation, in climate change, insecticide use. But personally, the habitat fragmentation isn't necessary. I mean, in the sense that we can easily defragment our habitats by making bridges over motorways or whatever, but there's no effort to
tunnels.
do that. HS2 ploughing through the countryside. No one said, we've got to make some bridges so the wildlife can continue to connect the way it was. No, now we have a barrier, and the HS2 will be a significant barrier to many species of insect. And
because they put those sort of wildlife highways, bridges across the highways, don't they? A lot in Northern Europe,
France, France
as well,
in particular, yeah. And that's funded. A lot of that's funded actually by hunters.
Yeah,
because they don't. They want the deer to be able. They want to be able to shoot all the deer out in a place, but not have to bother bringing them back in. So they want the deer to walk to their own death. But it's fine because other species benefit from that, and I think it's good. And I do wish in Britain, it's easy enough to make a tunnel or a bridge, and obviously they say, we haven't got the money. Well, if you put a poll out of all the people in Britain and say, look, would you pay an extra, I don't know, let's say if everyone paid 50 quid a year, everyone in the country paid 50 quid a year towards defragmenting habitats, I would have said that probably 70% of people now, I don't know, 50% of people would be really happy to do that.
I think what it comes down to is education, though, doesn't it? It needs to be in schools, start with those generations and create the awareness around it all, and then people are going to be more inclined.
Exactly.
So your film, for example, is a useful film to have out there. Any of those natural history films that educate us more on the local flora and fauna as well, because it is lovely seeing the lions and the wildebeest and all of that, but to understand more about what's around our own feet would just create this love and sort of get everyone's buy-in a bit more, that this happens in my garden or down my street or in that forest over there.
Well, I think also that you can engage with it, once you know just a little bit, you can engage with it
entirely
in such an extraordinary way. And I mean, for me, the thing about the bees versus the lions is, lions, they need hundreds, if not thousands of square miles, frankly, whereas in your garden, once you're down at the bee level, you've got that much excitement and drama going on in your back garden all on its own, as long as you haven't astroturfed it. But and the other key thing is, as long as you haven't insecticided it, and this is the other aspect that really is very rarely, not often discussed enough, because along with defragmentation, we need to de-insecticide our habitats. But the big problem with gardens is that you could be very conscientious and not use insecticide, but if you just treat your dog with certain kinds of anti-flea powder as a preventative once a month, you will possibly kill all the insects in your garden, and quite possibly in your next door's garden too. I don't know the names of all of the different treatments, and I don't know much about the efficiency, the efficacy of the different treatments, but essentially most vets tell most people to treat their pets against fleas preventatively, i.e. whether they got fleas or not. And these are general insecticides, and they're often used in quantities that are way beyond safe levels, frankly, even in terms of, and there's one insecticide that is well known for, one treatment on one dog will, if the dog swims in a river, kill all the insects in a sort of 200-meter stretch of river. One treatment of
this
this
external topical treatment rather than
external
the
topical
pill
treatment. Yeah, one treatment has enough insecticide to kill 25 million bees, and this is a huge problem because, and the farmers are using insecticide, but I mean, they are being more and more limited by law.
Yeah.
And obviously, if people started buying food that was not treated with insecticide, i.e. organic, and thus reduced the value of insecticide-treated food,
that would be so much better.
Have a positive knock-on effect, wouldn't it?
I understand that. So obviously, in your dream garden, you would have no insecticides, no pesticides, no people with dogs or animals nearby, so that you don't have to worry about
with flea treatment.
Yeah,
but there would need to be animals, though, and this is the other aspect. So on the one hand, of course, I'd love it to be wild and just run itself, but it won't run itself without the full catalogue of animals that evolved alongside our plant life and our bees. And that catalogue, in fact, includes quite a lot of extinct animals also, such as the aurochs or the extinct cattle, the straight-tusked elephant, the rhinos, the European bison, the wild horses, the wild asses, the lions, the hyenas. These are all indigenous animals to this country that have gone. And these are...
No way.
So if I'm not going to have them, which I'm not, then I kind of have to do a little bit of that work for them. So I could have some cattle, I could have some horses, but not many, because they need to be, for many of the bees, their nesting regime involves, many of the ground nesting bees, involves animals like cattle keeping the grass short, but also involves their hooves compressing the soil to such a degree that when the bee makes a hole in the soil, and another cow comes along and treads on that hole, it doesn't close up the hole. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that in the wild now, like if you go on any coast path, where you see most bee burrows is actually on the path itself. You see lots and lots of bee burrows and wasp burrows. That's where they all live. And everyone's saying, we can't have all this erosion caused by all these people with hiking boots. It's like, no, it's the erosion. That's the important feature.
Yeah.
So I would have to have some means of creating those kind of nesting areas. So, if you have a hedge or something where the cattle have to walk past every day to their barn or to be milked or whatever, those paths will harbour bee nests. The other thing is the woodland. I would need to have obviously no insecticide. If a tree falls down, like let's say if a tree's got ash dieback and the tree dies and it falls, it collapses. Let the wild beetles make the holes, because those are the holes that the leafcutters and the other hole nesting bees like.
Great.
Carpenter bees. What about the carpenter bees? They like to chow down on dead wood, don't they?
Carpenter bees, yes. Well, carpenter bees are actually very rare in Britain, but there are some here. And they probably will increase. They don't chow down on the dead wood, but they will excavate their nest. They're actually very interesting, and it's a shame they're not more common, because they're very big, they're extremely beautiful, but that the males are not entirely useless in the rearing.
No, they get involved as well, do they?
Well, not really, but they do defend. So the males just think they're defending their female from other males, but the net effect is that they defend the nest from other females that might be looking for a nest, or other bees, or parasitic bees, or other predators, even humans. They will attack, or they will appear to attack. And so this is in the United States, carpenter bees in the United States. I don't know much about the behavior of the European carpenter bee. There's only a couple of species, in fact. But anyway, there are a few sites around London where these bees are now regular. And they are possibly spreading. They are spectacular. But the other key thing about them is that the mother lives long enough to occupy the same nest with her daughters and sons, and so there's like a little more of a little actual family there.
Yeah.
Aww. Well, I feel like this is a slightly redundant question. Do you want a shed or a greenhouse in your dream garden?
Oh, shed, of course. No, I mean, shed's a really important place for all sorts of insects. Indeed, I would probably create a false wall within which there were cavities that I would love it. I would love it for a hornet to make a nest in my shed, or even just a common wasp, or or even a wild honeybee nest. All of those things. I would think about. You could make a shed with a sort of false wall, and behind the false wall, you could create 4 or 5 quite big chambers that would take large nests of social insects such as bees, wasps, and could make and make some holes for blue tits, because there's a tree bumblebee likes to nest in blue tit nests. I mean, it's not ideal for the blue tit because they get kicked out, but
a bit itchy. Can you have a hornet's nest cheek by jowl next to other bee nests? Are they going to get on?
As long as the entrance was different, yeah. I mean, a hornet, the Eurasian hornet. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure they attack bees. I mean, they really are. They like spiders. They'll eat anything. They're not like the Asian hornet. They're not like the Asian hornet that, apparently specializes in bees. I'm not sure if it does, because often with these so-called invasive species, much of what we know about it is from the Daily Mail and sort of sensational.
What do they call it? Like a killer wasp, or
it's just
murder wasp?
No, it's a species of hornet. It's just another hornet, and it's actually smaller than our native hornet. But I mean, I found the native hornets to be very gentle animals. They're
pretty
lovely.
Docile, aren't they? They're less annoying than the sort of barbecue wasp that you get. They're less annoying.
Well, yes, but even the barbecue wasps. I mean, what you call the barbecue wasp, there's actually quite a few species, and again, I've found them to be, basically with wasps, just ignore them, and they're really relaxed, and they're really interesting, and all wasps eat huge numbers of insects without their efforts. Our plant life would be destroyed in one season.
Yeah. Okay.
Wasps, we need to love wasps as much as we love bees. Yeah. And if I had all the money and time in the world, I would do a series called I Love Wasps, and This Is Why. But I don't think I'm going to see the money for that.
Oh, that's a shame. How can we get the money? What are we talking here, Martin?
Millions?
Wasps are difficult and complex, and to answer the question, this is why, I'd need 5 years, and it'd be a few million quid, basically, quite a few million, really, to sustain production for that length of time.
And we'll pass the hat around.
Yeah, pass the hat.
See what we can do.
Exactly. Yeah. What would be 5 ornamentals that would attract all of these different pollinators, all these different insects?
Well, firstly, there is an ornamental that I love that bees don't seem to be very interested in, and that's red campion, which for me, among wild bluebells, when they come out in spring, is one of the most beautiful sights of all. But neither flower seems to be particularly important to bees. I mean, you'd be hard pushed to see a bee visit them, but they do.
What pollinates a red campion?
I don't know.
Not a bee.
Possibly moths.
It might be a bee. I've just not seen bees really pay them much attention, so I don't really know. But I mean, what's it? Fly, moth. It's not butterfly. Probably flies. Probably some kind of fly.
We'll have to look into that.
Other ornamentals, I mean, if I was in Italy, martagon lily, wild martagon lily, absolutely spectacular. To see those growing in the wild is gobsmacking.
What's that like?
The flowers point down and the petals are curled up. And I think there's another variety or version of it called a Turk's head, because
know that one.
I mean, it's a classic lily, same as a tiger lily, but it's just the flowers are turned down. And again, I don't think they're particularly a bee favourite. They might be.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a peony in my garden, which is, again, as far as I can tell, pretty close to the wild peony. And every year it is spectacular for 5 days.
Yeah, not long, is it?
But the bees love it, and it's been in the garden, all that time. It has the same number of flowers every year. It's reliable, beautiful, and some bees love it.
Okay, what colour is it?
It's a kind of magenta-y, crimson-y. It's sort of dark red. I think that's the standard colour of it, isn't it?
Big fat blooms.
Yes, but only single layer of petals.
Oh, nice.
The double ones often don't seem to interest bees at all.
No, a bit tricky. It's a herbaceous one, not a tree peony.
It's not a tree peony, no.
I think you've got two more. So you've had red campions, Martin lilies, magenta peony.
Well, I mean, orchids. I mean, lizard orchid. We had lizard orchids in France when we were working there. That's just, again,
beautiful.
It's of no interest to bees, but it's ornamental. I mean, and they're big, they grow to sort of 4 or 5 feet even. Yeah, I'd have some of them just for the sake of mind-blowing
beauty. Just looks amazing. Well, what's the last ornamental then?
Well, let me see. I mean, the thing is that for me, sloe, blackthorn in spring, and it isn't just an ornamental, but yeah, I mean, a blackthorn hedge, but like quite mature. Absolutely, when they're out and when it's full out, and I'd love it. I love it every year, and it's also, it's about my birthday, so I know that if the blackthorn is past, it's going to be a hot year. If the blackthorn's still just coming out, it's going to be a cool year.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I always look at the timing of the blackthorn. I haven't been able to see any patterns, though.
No,
really.
Okay.
But it does vary.
What's 5 edible plants for the garden?
Ooh, 5 edible plants. Well, again, back on the prunus, there would have to be some kind of plum tree, probably just a Victoria plum that was just dropped tons of fruit at the right time, because I don't know if you've noticed, but over the last 20 years, edible plums have left our shelves, and the only way you can get an edible plum these days is pick it off a tree.
Really? I hadn't noticed that.
No.
I would also add bramble, because I love blackberries. It's the same thing. I love ripe blackberries because the flavour is exquisite and subtle. And when they have that flavour, they're so soft they couldn't possibly be transported anywhere. And I mean, they grow easily. Bees love them. They're very important for many creatures. And obviously, if they're a bit boisterous and start taking up space, well, you just chop them back. I mean, if you treat them like a grapevine.
Well, I saw on the show you were growing one up a trellis, weren't you?
Yeah, we've got one on a trellis. I'm really looking forward to the fruits from that. It's the first time we've actually tried to train them like that, I must say.
And is it working well?
Well, so far, yeah. I mean, they've flowered, the fruits are looking good, and they're where I want them to be. They're high up, but they don't, not that there's any dogs in our garden. I mean, I could focus on bee-friendly flowers, artichoke.
Oh, they're loved, aren't they?
Both kinds, actually, are very, Jerusalem artichokes, if you can grow them, they're a bit like sunflowers, actually.
Yeah.
They're very like sunflowers, and bees love them. But also, I don't know, but I bet you globe artichokes, if you let them flower rather than eat them,
go purple.
They go purple, and bet you bees love them.
Yeah, when they've got the big purple flower, the bees almost kind of swim in this lovely soft, the soft petals of the flower, because it's quite an unusual flower, isn't it? Lots of tiny petals.
Yeah. No, I'd love to see that.
And they just swim through it. It's rather beautiful.
I might have to get some of them then. And
2 more.
2 more edibles. Oh dear, I know I'll think of something. Well, I mean, wild strawberries. Strawberries are good sometimes. I mean, strawberries are good, but the thing is, you can buy strawberries from a shop and they can taste good, and you can get ripe ones. So, but wild strawberries are a different flavour, and actually some wild strawberries are not very nice, but other wild strawberries are very nice. So I'd like some nice tasting wild strawberries, please.
The nice version,
the nice ones.
Of wild strawberries.
Yeah, they've got to be nice tasting.
The nice
Otherwise,
ones.
not too much, but they're nice. If you can get a couple of bowls a year from them, so you can have a special day with wild strawberries and cream. I have had that. It's very special.
Lovely.
Sounds lovely.
And what else we got? There's
last one.
Last one. Well, I mean, in terms of bee pollinating, I mean, pears, a nice pear tree.
Okey-dokes.
Because again, pears are easy to get when they're ripe, but some varieties are hard to get. And I mean, I actually don't know the name of the variety, but there is a variety I would like, and so I want you to get that variety and to know.
Okay, that one that you don't know it's called. Got it. Leave it with us. So you're going to need 2 pear trees, because They always
quite possibly, and that might also be true actually of the. It's probably not true of the plum.
I think the plum's pretty good on its own.
Some plums, yeah. We've got a green gauge that actually isn't so good on its own because it needs to be pollinated. And so only in good years, such as this year, does it produce much fruit.
Okay.
But I haven't asked for a green gauge for that very reason.
You're not getting a green gauge.
Okay.
So the theme is less about it being sweet edibles. It's more that they're low maintenance, they're perennials, they can be left to wildly do their thing.
Well, and they bees like them. And they're nice to look at. You know what I mean? I mean,
that's a good point.
So if I had carrots, to grow carrots for the carrots, it's like I'd rather grow them for the flowers because the carrot flowers are quite interesting. So I'm not quite sure. I mean, am I allowed some carrots? Yeah, I'll have some carrots just for the flowers. I grow them for the flowers.
You can have an honourable mention, but we're very, very strict on this, Martin.
Are you really?
You can only have 5 edibles.
Okay, so if I got... The thing is, I'm not going to eat them, though. That's the trouble, isn't it?
No, it's fine. You can have those 5. They sound good.
Okay, all right.
What is the statement tree?
The statement tree. Well,
the one.
The thing about oaks is that you'd have to be quite an old oak. Doesn't have to be.
You can have one. You can have a huge old one.
Yeah, but obviously in a patch of land that's big enough and good enough for that, and obviously, again with animals. But yes, an oak that's drooping down to the ground. But it would need to be not far from woodland so that woodland favouring species that like oaks, such as, for example, the butterfly called the purple hairstreak, and also possibly the purple emperor, 2 species that like to hang around in the tops of oaks. I'd love them to be there, but obviously, there's plenty of insects that love oaks. I mean, oaks are just nice because there's so much diversity of species that inhabit oaks, need oaks, Obviously you'd have some holes in the tree for nests of various sorts.
Okay, that would be perfect. And you could have a really old gnarly one and not too far from the woodland, so that would be fine. Now then, would you like a pond or a pool in your dream garden, and what plant would you have?
I would definitely have a clear fresh water source coming from either a spring or nearby hills that would flow into a pool, making quite a large pool, which would have a small area that could be swum in, but would also have corners where it was quite still, and because the water's spring fed, there's very little nitrogen in it. So there would be a variety of pond life in various corners of it, and it would flow out again. So it would be, but it would be basically clear, and it would definitely have dragonflies breeding, giant water beetles, and damselflies. Whether or not there would be fish in it, the only fish that could be allowed would probably be sticklebacks. It would have newts.
Yes, of course.
Sounds beautiful. So what sort of size are you talking then?
What are we talking about? Probably 10 by 20 meters, that kind of scale.
Oh, so not huge. Quite a modest one.
Okay.
I would say modest, yeah. Well, I think that the thing is, if it gets too big, then it becomes a lake, and then fish should be in it. And what I'm interested in is the insect life. Because, again, there are a few places in Britain where such species can breed because nitrogenous waste and nitrogenous pollution, they allow for the growth of weeds like duckweed, which changes the habitat to their detriment. So So in particular, these species of dragonfly I'm talking about and damselfly are species that require that kind of clean, clear water, and I'd really like to see them and help them. So I would go to great lengths to keep the pond fish-free, except for sticklebacks, although I'm not even sure if sticklebacks would be allowed.
Right.
Okay.
or if they weren't, I'm not sure how I would get rid of them.
No.
That's a good point.
We won't have any fish in there then.
And of course, there will be frogs and toads breeding in it as well.
Yeah, of course. Frogs, toads, newts. And what plant?
Well, just the wild, there would be reed mace. There would be a corner with reed mace, probably a little bit of a corner for just like Phragmites reed, but various sedges and, of course,
one plant.
One plant.
You only get one choice of plant.
Oh, if I had to choose one plant.
The one and only.
Well, I don't know if that really works because to have the diversity of insects you need, obviously there's algae, there'd have to be algae, they're plants. I don't know if I can answer that. But I mean...
Imagine we've got you in a headlock and you said, Martin, it's one plant, or nothing at all.
I don't know. Reed mace is pretty good, isn't it?
Well then, final question for the Dream Garden. Your favourite seating area and drink to have in that area. And one last plant for that spot.
Seating area, yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be near the pond, isn't it? And it's going to be a wooden seat that's like a kind of semicircle or with a table there, and maybe some cushions that could be brought out for when it's not raining. There'd be a little barbecue there as well.
Right, yeah.
A little brick thing just on the ground.
Yeah.
And the shed wouldn't be that far away because cushions would obviously go in the shed.
Oh, sorry.
Of course.
Fridge, no, I mean, keeping things cool, you might put them in the pond in drinks, for example.
Sounds good.
And obviously if the pond was getting that warm that there's a problem, then that's a whole other issue. So there would need to be some kind of shade over the pond partially. It's really important.
Would that be your plant then that's providing the shade?
Yeah.
A plant for that area, for your seating area?
Well, no, I mean, there's all kinds of trees in the garden. Plum trees or whatever, that, one of them, just so that for a reasonable part of the day there was shade. Over, so that the pond didn't just get the full heat of the hot sun all day long.
Okay.
Because it would, even though it's spring fed and is constantly being cooled.
Yeah.
That's the really key thing.
Yeah.
But a bit of help, because not all the animals in this country are going to benefit from a warming climate. Quite a few are going to be unhappy with a warming climate. They have evolved in colder climes, and so I'd like to give them some slack.
Okay.
Is there an issue with bees overheating? Because I thought I read that one of the ways bees, certainly honeybees, will kill an invading hornet, I'm assuming an Asian hornet, is they'll surround it and they'll beat their wings fast to heat up and make it too hot for the hornet that it dies.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing because obviously bees, here's the thing, bees are wasps. And so why can a honeybee get hotter than a hornet without harm? I don't know the answer to that, but yes, that is true. That is what they do. And in Japan, for example, the giant hornet, which is like as big as a thumb. These are huge hornets that do systematically hunt honeybees. The honeybees will, if the honeybees find one lurking around the nest, they will capture it and kill it in that way, because it's too big for them to kill with their own stings. So I don't know. I mean, the thing about bees is they love heat. And,
they do?
I had an interest. Yeah, I mean, the hotter the better. I've not seen them. So I've got
that's good news.
On my bee houses, I've got a black rubber roof, like a car floor mat over the things. And if you touch it, I mean, it's in the full sun. It's almost too hot to touch. The bees love it. They love sitting on it. And they love
amazing.
And trying to film a leafcutter bee in her nest, I had sort of there's like a plastic cover and she goes in the side. And I could never get a shot because she's so hot from flying. When she comes in, it would always just steam up.
Sweet. Oh.
Yeah, so I mean, they get to sort of 50 degrees, their wing muscles.
Amazing.
Something like that, really, really hot. So I don't think,
the heat isn't
it's
a concern
not
for
the bees themselves that mind the heat. Bumblebees will, because bumblebees are
fluffy.
They are fluffy and they can overheat. Or they can be less comfortable in the hot weather. But it's the plants on which they depend which will change. But again, I mean, bees are pretty versatile.
Yeah. They'll find another plant.
Yeah. What is the plant for that area by your seating area?
Well, I mean, around the seating area, there would be a little bit of red campion. Well, here's the plant that actually, one of the plants that would be really, really good is, in fact, ragwort, which everyone hates. But ragwort is a really good plant for bees.
Yes.
And the thing about them, they have a long flowering season. They have been shown to deliver more pollen and nectar per flower head than almost anything else, except for knapweed, and that is the other plant. Right. I'm not allowed to, am I? If I had to choose between knapweed and ragwort, it's knapweed every time.
Okay. Knapweed. Okay, we'll put down knapweed then.
And wild knapweed, as opposed to centaurea,
so have that around your bench.
Yeah. And what would you be drinking?
Well, typically I actually drink. I could just say I'd have a glass of red wine, and that'd be easy.
Yeah.
But that's not what I would have. What I would actually have is an Italian drink called Cina, which is made from artichokes, in fact.
Oh, wow. And, alcoholic drink?
Alcoholic drink, yeah. It's not very strong, about 16%. And I would mix that with ice, and I would pour a little bit of Campari in it.
Right. Is this a known cocktail? Would you call that a
cocktail? I don't think it is, actually. I mean, it evolved from a Negroni. When I first had a Negroni, I thought, wow, this is nice.
Yeah. So this is a Martin special. I can't imagine what a drink made from artichoke tastes like. Is it? Yeah. Is it sweet?
It's quite sweet, but it's also got a kind of bitterness to it that sort of complements the Campari. I mean, it's quite. When I first tried it a long, long time ago, I thought this was the weirdest thing. I thought I wasn't that comfortable with it. Now,
you love it.
Just seems normal. I don't know what's happened to my palate. Something's gone funny with my palate.
It's called getting old, Martin. I hate to break this news to you. It's what I'm finding anyway.
Yeah.
And what sort of glass do you have for the drinking? Is that a long drink?
No, it's just like an ordinary size tumbler.
Yeah.
That I have it in. Otherwise, I'd end up drinking too much.
I
find drinking isn't good for me anymore, so I drink much less than I used to. And that drink actually isn't very strong, and it's very interesting.
Well, I'm going to read you back your amazing wildlife garden that you have created, just in case there's anything you want to change. So, there's going to be a very large space, not far from a town, possibly 1 hectare, possibly a bit bigger. Dorset countryside around, some woodlands, some hillsides, some swamps. You wanted to have some chalk hills very near to the sea as well, with also some dune slack. And of course, we wanted some cattle and horses, because that's very important for the wildlife. Then, in your shed, we were going to create a false wall with some cavities for hornets, wasps, bees, some big chambers, and some holes for blue tits. Then your 5 ornamentals were red campion, martican lily, magenta peony, a single one, lizard orchids, and blackthorn. Your 5 edibles, we had Victoria plum, brambles, artichokes, wild strawberries, the nice ones specifically, and pear trees, and a special mention to carrots, of course. Your 1 tree was a huge old oak in a big patch, but not too far from the woodland. You were then going to have a clear freshwater source flowing into a pool, some bits to swim in, some bits which are kind of for wildlife, and a flow out and some reed mace in there. And then finally, you're going to be sitting by the pond on a wooden semicircle seat with cushions and a table, little barbecue. You were going to have some shade over the pond, wild knapweed around you, and this Cina Italian drink from Italy, plus Campari mixed, and ice, of course.
Yes.
Well, how does that sound?
Yeah, well, I mean, if I had that, I'd probably be...
retire and...
very, very happy.
Certainly wouldn't be short of things to do, because I'd have to bloody look after it all. Obviously, we haven't specified who looks after the horses and the cattle.
It's your dream garden. Who would you like to look after?
Well, I'd like the farmer next door who owns them to look after them, so that they just came in and grazed a bit.
Your wish is our command.
There we go.
Well, I love the sound of this garden. It's very different to others that we've had.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
A beautiful wildlife garden. We shall be coming to visit anytime soon.
You'll be absolutely welcome. And so the bench would be
big enough for all of us.
Yeah, big enough for guests.
Nice.
There would, of course, be some other cushions and things like that. And but yes, you'd be absolutely welcome. It'd be lovely to see you. And
Lovely.
thank you for the opportunity to waffle on about.
Well, it's been fantastic.
More.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. That's been a good old chit chat with Martin.
Right. Well, thank you very much.